So, yeah, pretty crazy now with all the people coming forward, like the Me Too movement, with the climate change, Paris Hilton coming out with her history, the Angelina Jolie coming out with her history on some level with her dad, a lot of people in Hollywood, just different people out there who are coming to terms with whatever trauma they've ever been through. Some are more influential than others, so they have a larger audience and a lot more support or sympathy or denigration based upon just how you feel about the person. Hollywood is a huge MK Ultra trauma-based programming society, and of course Silicon Valley engineered all of that. And so you also have people from Silicon Valley who have been groomed for their specific positions, and you really don't know what their history is unless they actually come out with it, if there is a place for it. Some will go to their grave with all the secrets of their life, what gave them their capacity to be an excellent journalist or an excellent scientist or a developer, innovator, leader, politician, actor. I mean, that's the Babylonian engineering of society. That is law and order. That is an excellent society, is when people are put through a type of trauma that some will survive and be amazing and push humanity forward. Others will fall through the cracks and they become, lost in the system, lost in the juvenile or the penitentiary system, and others get lost in drugs and alcohol and or become prostitutes. And some find ways to channel their trauma into writing, into reading, into all the different artistic, outlets that are out there. And so nobody escapes trauma. Nobody does. It's how you channel it and then how well you can pretend that your life is so amazing. But people do go through trauma. Some can come off like as if they were unscathed, but when you think about it, the medical trauma, if you're not going through like physical trauma, really, if your parents they're keeping their hands off you and you're relatively unscathed in high school and junior high and grade school, but you have medical predisposed issues. And so, yeah, you can manage your situations with drugs, prescription drugs, surgeries, and CRISPR gene editing. But at some point, people do not escape the actual trauma, that even if they don't remember it or feel it because they were under the influence of anesthesia or something else, eventually the spells wear off and people don't survive them waking up from the programming. And so right now we are in a period of dealing with people's demons. Some people don't survive it. They actually die in the system from the trauma, and they keep all the secrets of whatever they went through to the grave. Maybe their kids and their next of kin know a little bit about it, but when you think about it, people don't know the extent of some people's trauma because it's so well hidden. It is hidden in plain sight. And so it's not a coincidence that Paris Hilton came out with her story. And of course now she has kids. She just got married. Her sister got married off to a Rothschild. And so those two were groomed for very different purposes. And so you can see the kind of programming, obviously the Diamond, MK Ultra, Marilyn Monroe programming with Paris Hilton, and then you have Nikki Hilton, who was groomed to be a Stepford wife. And so yes, that movie, The Stepford Wives, from the 1970s and also in the 1990s or 2000s with Nicole Kidman, that was basically telling you right up front that yes, women, men have been programmed, mind-controlled, programmed, institutionalized, or even have, handlers that program them to be a specific way. And looking back on my own history, I see exactly how I was programmed in a lot of ways. But I don't need the outlet to go and be like a Paris Hilton and name off every single thing that I think would have been inappropriate as far as raising a child. I took that information and turned it into saving myself from the predisposed issues that I may have carried or picked up along the way and not suffer from the autoimmune disorders, from the cancer, disease, and chronic illness, that I found a way to save myself from all the different diseases out there. So we all can take our trauma and our ways that we've been being raised that may have been unorthodox and channel it properly. And some will have to go into the gritty details. I mean, my book kind of gave you some idea of a little bit of stuff, but really it barely even scratches the surface. And there's no reason to go way deep because it doesn't serve me or anyone else out there. What you really want to come from my background is the fact that you can save yourself and overcome the trauma without destroying somebody else. That you can face your demons without taking everyone around you down with you. But it's not for me to decide if that's appropriate for you. What's for me is to represent someone who can face the demons and do it in a proper way, in a proper venue, without involving other people or projecting that this person is the enemy or the demon or whatever, because that's also when people who have so much trauma to them is they're always projecting and finding someone to represent the demon that caused them the harm. Even though that person, they never knew that person, they never existed until they looked at who they were as far as social media and what the media has said. But that's a lot of the issues out there, is that we have people who are very traumatized who cannot look within and see where they can channel that in the proper way. And so they find a savior or a demon in order to escape responsibility. And so, yeah, the whole J world is about understanding your personal responsibility in overcoming your demons, your trauma, without destroying yourself, destroying your children, and destroying people around you, and that you can actually survive the climate change. That the fear out there is really a psychological programming because you have an immune system. Believe me, if somebody means for you to pass away as far as the system and what we would call genocide, we would have nuclear war and there would be complete mutually assured destruction, but that's not happening. We just have a lot of different fear campaigns that some people will not survive because the climate changing and the fear out there is bringing up so many of their demons, and their demons are coming to surface in pain, in remembering past issues, in so many things, finding someone that doesn't follow their line of thought and finding a way to take them down psychologically and make them wrong for whatever, when in actuality they're actually looking at themselves and they don't like themselves. And so that's the world right now. That's why we are in a virtual society, because the system knew that once climate changed, people's demons were going to come out, and they were going to try to, and people will project their demons on someone else. And they will look for a savior or look for a demon to go and blame for whatever reason. And the system will give you a demon or a savior. So that way you don't take responsibility and then you go away quietly or go away safely without taking anyone else down, but you take yourself down because you are now getting involved with the herbal remedies, the surgeries, the prescription drugs, the countless therapists that have to manage your demons until you are gone in silence. And so that's what's going on here, okay? And so the whole J world is like, hey, this is a way you release your demons. You do it in a proper venue that isn't trying to convert somebody else, that isn't trying to demonize someone else, that understands how the system is working, and to save yourself, of course, offer some kind of hope for someone else. Doesn't mean that because what you're doing is going to help somebody else literally have them have the same outcome, but that they have a chance to face your demons if they have the capacity to do it. And it's something that it's a journey that everyone must figure out on their own. But we all can be representation of that amazing journey. And so how does that come out? It comes out in what you say, what you do, what your beliefs are, how you conduct your life, who it is that you target as a savior or a demon. And it's like taking your own, personal inventory on your contribution to the old world or the new world, and what you're setting your kids up for, and what you're setting yourself up for, what you're setting your family up for. Are you setting them up for excellence or for failure? Because they have your predisposed issues. They have your demons. That's the thing, is that people don't realize that in families, people inherit the demons. And so just because you may have dealt with your demons, are you giving somebody in your family an opportunity to go and deal with their demons, so that way they're not repeating your demons? And so, the whole J world it's an amazing journey. And so, listening to some of the stuff with Paris Hilton, and then of course Sloan, who does little bits on people's situations in Hollywood, he's a really good channel to watch on certain things. I mean, I'm not really all into the Hollywood gossip, but Hollywood is a representation of all of the humans out there because we are run by and influenced by those in politics, religion, and science, and Hollywood is a huge political, religious, and scientific mind control center. I mean, they put out the movies for entertainment, but really it's more of a conditioning. And so Hollywood is a representation of you and of how you conduct yourself with everything that you do. And so it's good to kind of see that I totally understand where that chick, what she kind of went through. I'm not saying I went through this exactly the same thing, but I could see shades and nuances of what she went through, which is part of the conditioning process to develop people with eating disorders if they don't get out of that, if they self-destruct, or develop people into being a certain way, you know, with your sexually, academic, artistic. I'll tell you, there's so many different personality types out there based upon the trauma-based programming. And so then you can start looking at your world and what are you doing and how can we still innovate our children without going down those aggressive extreme roads that Hollywood did and what Silicon Valley did to a lot of different people back in the 80s and 90s. Okay? Because you think about Paris Hilton, she's like 42. I'm like 49. We're about in the same Gen X. She's more of like maybe the Gen, like a Xennial? Millennial, Xennial, yeah. She's on the cusp there. And so, yeah, I was probably an experiment when you think about it for that type of programming. And then they institutionalize the way they do things like that. They institutionalize that in places, and there's plausible deniability. Like with these kids, they go to wilderness camps, like what Dr. Phil would send these troubled teens to. And yeah, they try to like get them corrected, but no, they actually take what they already have inside and expound on it. And sometimes kids will actually be amazing in the future, and sometimes kids will destroy themselves, and it's a crapshoot. That's why the military is like that. Delta Force, all types of military, special forces, Air Force, Marines, Army. It's all a MK Ultra conditioning. Break someone down, build them back up. Same thing with testing in college. Break them down, stress them out with tests and useless figures to memorize, to then build you back up, because then you have a sense of purpose, a sense of accomplishment. But really, it's a contrived type of thing, because if not, then you'd be out there like a third world country, dog eat dog, and kill or be killed, a very Darwinian type of society. But remember what George Bush said a long time ago. This is not the law of the jungle. We're having law of the order, not law of the jungle, and they're going to develop the trauma that is measured, that is contrived, that is intentional, not to destroy all of society, but to figure out who the weak people are in our society and who the strong people are. And the ones that can handle the ridicule, the bullies, the climate change, all the different changes in our society, you will be able to handle the next world. But right now we have a lot of people who've been conditioned not to understand how to assimilate to a changing climate, a changing economy, changing stuff. And so they'll be caught off guard trying to cure themselves, trying to resist the changes, and they will be resisting themselves out of existence. So I understand there's a bigger picture going on, and I've now become more aware of how people respond to the trauma-based programming in the past. And of course, you can tell what kind of trauma people have been through just by how they conduct themselves right now, what kind of addictions they're under, what kind of artistic outlet that they have. And you can tell when someone who has been sexually abused, they are writing about sex and porn all over the place. And they're very sexually expressive. And those who had other kind of trauma, maybe they get lost in alcohol and drugs and cannabis and self-harm. Or they go and try to correct everybody and try to go and influence them and tell them that this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. I mean, politics, religion, and science all has their own trauma-based programming. Now you have to identify what kind of trauma-based programming you under and figure out, is your religion, is your politics, is your scientific dogmas as a result of the trauma-based programming you underwent in your childhood. And you can see that people who've never been raised with religion, maybe they were abused by somebody, then they turn to religion. So they go from one trauma-based programming to another one. And so that's also out there. So when someone says, oh yeah, I used to be a drug addict, I used to be this, I used to be that, and now they're a born again Christian and they have their own trauma-based programming, okay? Every religion does. Then you see people trade one addiction for another, one trauma for another. And so also be aware of that. That's why I say question everything that you go into when you have been traumatized by somebody. Because as soon as you think that you've escaped the trauma and all that stuff and you go into another organized type of religion, organized political dogma, organized scientific association, you're just reacting to what you went through with another addiction, with another organized trauma-based programming. Remember, suffering and trauma is very addictive. That's why we have such a fascination with watching murder shows and watching horror movies and watching somebody go through their problems and all that. That's why people are attracted to my information, because they think I'm a train wreck or they think I'm falling apart. In reality, I'm actually acknowledging what they're going through and they're projecting it back onto me as if I was the one is having the issues, when they actually have more of the issues that they have to deal with themselves. Okay? And so when you think about it, people are looking at themselves by looking at me. That's why they're attracted to me. If everything is great and all that stuff, fine, that's good. But I'll tell you, what we are attracted to tells us everything about who we are, what we went through. And I'm not saying that you can be destroyed. You don't have to be destroyed by that. You don't have to die from it. You don't have to die from the trauma. You don't have to die from the suffering. You don't have to die from that. But we have to acknowledge where we have had responsibility and putting ourselves under the knife, putting ourselves on the drugs, constantly out there trying to save everybody and be the good person. In reality, you need to take care of yourself, but that's not for me to say. You have to be the one to acknowledge. And if you don't want to be the one, then that's fine. Then people have that choice just to live out their life, not dealing with their stuff and just keeping their demons at bay because they can't survive their demons and they know it. And so we can't really fault them for it, but we have to recognize that and figure out what we as a person can handle with somebody else, and how many demons that you have inside, how many demons they have, and do your demons and their demons, can they hang out together? And if they can't, then acknowledge that it's not a bad or good, it's just what is. And then we don't expect our self-worth from how people interact with us or do not interact with us. Okay? And that was the hardest thing of all, is developing your own self-worth, not based upon what someone does or does not do for you or with you. And so when you do separate yourself from the needing of social capital, the needing of human connection, when you can connect with yourself, then when you do have a human connection with someone, you're going to really appreciate it and it will mean something to you. Okay, not saying that anyone doing the opposite doesn't have a meaning with that, because they have their own life to live. But I'll say that I appreciate the human connections that I do have, because I have connected with myself on such a level. And so when I do get human interaction, connection, it just means a whole lot more. And I cherish it a whole lot more. And I don't take it for granted, and I don't abuse it. It is something that it makes you appreciate the world out there when you finally deal with your own bullshit on your own. And that's really now the new world. The old world is about everyone depending upon everybody else, and you atrophy your own system, so that way when something happens, now you have someone over there to save you, right? If they know how to save you. Not everybody knows CPR, not everybody knows the Heimlich maneuver, but that's the thing, is that we've atrophied our system to such an extent that we needed the medical, the holistic, our friends and family to do the Heimlich maneuver, CPR, or give us a drug, or give us that, that company because we feel lonely. And that world is gone now. That world is being eradicated. Now it's about you and how you deal with your own personal demons. And, can you survive on your own? Like I said the other day about the choking on that turkey gristle. Because I'll tell you, that turkey, when it's so smoked, it's so rubbery, but it's so tasty. But I'll tell you, that piece of fat, that piece of gristle, it was so big, but it was so good. And I wanted to swallow it, and it was too big. And it actually got caught in my throat. And I did panic for a minute. And then all of a sudden, my body just knew what to do, because it was strong enough, because I trained my system to expel. And it just expelled it on its own. And my husband was right there across from me, because he was eating the same type of thing, but he wasn't as gluttonous as I was. But I was really hungry that day. And so when you train your body to save yourself, you don't need someone to do the Heimlich maneuver. And if you have allowed your body to go through the processes of pushing all that all those antibodies through your heart and your blood and all that, and you've experienced those heart attacks and strokes without doing things to then stop it from pushing, then you won't need someone to do CPR on you and do those little, what do you call those things, defibrillators, okay? I mean, that's the thing right now. We have defibrillators in all these schools because these kids are atrophying. They don't have the strength to handle their own body processing climate change, and so they have to rely on defibrillators. They have to rely on a teacher or somebody else to do CPR or Heimlich maneuver or defibrillation. I mean, that's kind of a fucked up, outcome when you're always dependent on someone else to keep you alive, literally and figuratively. And so now the whole J world is about knowing how to keep yourself alive, because that's really the only way you're going to survive during climate change, because nobody out there can save you. Your friends are not going to save you. Your family ain't going to save you. The medical holistic system is not going to save you. Religion will not save you. Politics will not save you. Science will not save you. Only you can save you. And when people don't understand that, they will think you are the demon. They will think you are the bully. They will think you are the horriblest person in the world, because they have depended upon everyone around them and they never depend upon themselves. And anyone saying anything different is, well, speaking blasphemy, violating their religion of depending upon the medical system, demonizing food, and falling into all of those fear campaigns, which is a depopulation agenda. When you're afraid of food and you think food's poison, you think this is poison, that's poison, everything's poison, that's the depopulation agenda that people have fallen into. And so when you speak against that and realize that's actually a brainwashing, people want to hold on to that fear because that's their identity. Because if they actually questioned even that, they would have to question every single thing else that they've ever believed in, told to them by someone in authority. And that makes somebody's world crash because they've always listened to authority. It's okay. Authority has its place, but people go overboard. And then they absolutely have no mind of their own. And it's always the vet system that has all the answers. The medical system always has the answers. Someone in a lab has the answers. And that's how you get abused. That's how you get taken advantage of. And that's how you have somebody just take away your resources systematically until there's nothing left. And then you're left with nothing. And then you're suffering, blaming the world. All right, bye.